Curious Vedanth, and welcome to my podcast. Dear listeners, computers are everywhere, from submarines to phones to space shuttles. Today, if I said that my mother or my friend is a computer, you would be like, what? However, did you know that the term computer from the early 17th century meant the one who computes and performs mathematical calculations? Before electronic computers became available, there used to be human computers. This episode is dedicated to Katherine Johnson, who was a computer at NASA and helped with the proper launch and return of astronaut John Glenn in Friendship 7 space capsule. The journey of computers from human beings to machines, and machines being as good as human beings, is surely fascinating. And who knows, in futures we could have robots as our friends. Today my guest is Apoorva Shantaram, a software engineer working in Mercedes-Benz Research and Development, India. She has studied computer science engineering. Hi Apoorva, welcome to my show.
Hi Vedanth, thank you so much. And that was so much good information that you gave out.
Thank you. I am curious to know what kind of computer engineer are you?
Okay, thank you for this interview, first of all, and thank you for this question. Because to be honest, just when I had to prepare for this interview, I learned that I was actually a software engineer. See, different companies had given me different designations, okay? More or less, I was doing a similar role with additional responsibility. But I finally understood, since that I deal with applications of a system or a project, these applications have a lot of software, right? And I'm a software engineer, hence, and computer engineering is very wide and it deals with several fields of computer science, electronic engineering required to develop computer hardware or software. So since I deal with software, I'm a software engineer.
Wow, interesting job of yours.
It is kind of, yes, I must say.
I know that Mercedes-Benz produces cars and engines. What role do computer engineers like you play there?
This is actually a very interesting question because everybody wonders what I'm doing in Benz when it's an automobile industry, right? See, now there are thousands of websites today, right? But let's say you instantly choose Amazon. Why? Because we have everything available on Amazon and it's user friendly, like in terms of user navigation, customer reviews, we have quick services, we have a very good feedback system. So any huge institutions or brands like Apple or any bank or retails like your Amazon, Flipkart, or any large company that you can think of, even like Mercedes. So they're so huge. Why? Because they're mostly customer centric and they have good quality services. And they also use the latest technology and they're on par. How do they achieve these things? They have customer data and they use it in a very tactful way and provide services or products for the future. Now, the world is becoming more and more digital, and just with the click of a button, you have the world at your service. So, likewise, Benz is also becoming digital, and we have so many applications that is being used by the customers, the dealers, the people who sell the cars. So they use so many applications, like let's say for their workshop to service the car, or be it maintain customer data or learning materials or contracts or licenses. They have to maintain so much of data, right? So all these things that are related to IT, it's handled by the Mercedes-Benz IT team. Okay, that's where I belong. And so now here we have teams that are either managing these existing applications like my team, or creating new applications using new technology. So we have developers, project managers who work on these new ideas. We are developing a new product and then, deleting age-old technologies and then replacing it with new ones. So this is what we do in IT.
What is customer data?
Okay, so now let's say you go to a store and buy Legos. Okay, now what will this Lego company do? They will ask you, okay, what is your name, what is your age? So now this is customer data that they get from the customer. How old is this boy who's taking? Where is he from? Is he from Singapore? Is he from India? Why are they buying this? What is their age? Are they doing any business with our Legos, or are they just using it for fun because they like it? And probably they'll also take your feedback. So all this is your customer data.
Wow. When I used to buy my Lego sets, I used to do a review online. It asked me whether you like the Lego, whether you have any new ideas. Is that customer data too?
Yes. So this is the customer feedback also, which is customer data. So now what they'll do is they'll use this customer data for future and see, okay, so this person likes yellow Legos a lot. Okay, and now if they see there are more than 10 people who like yellow Legos, then they'll make all Legos in yellow. Or mostly they will sell out all, they'll make and they'll sell mostly yellow Legos. So something like that.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
In my research, I learned that computer engineering consists of hardware and software engineers. What is the difference between both?
What is hardware? They are the physical components of the computer. Okay, it can be either your input devices, output devices, or your motherboards. So all the physical components that goes into a computer, like your mouse, keyboard, anything, speakers, all this, these physical components are your hardware, and whoever deals with the designing or the making of these is a hardware engineer. Software is basically like a set of instructions that we put into this hardware so that these hardwares can work or they can function properly. So these softwares, wherever they are designed or they are made, those are that comes into software engineering, and people who make it are software engineers.
What is input and output?
So let's say you are using a mic to sing. Okay, so your mic becomes your input device, and your singing becomes the input. Okay, your song becomes the input, and it is processed and it becomes a recording. And then the output is your recording, and it comes out through a speaker, let's say. So that's your output device.
What are the different components of a computer?
Okay, so basically in a computer, you have something called input devices, output, storage, processing unit, and control. Okay, so let's take the input, for example. So if you are entering the data and the instructions to the computer, then it's the input. The simplest input device, like I said, can be your mic or your keyboard or your mouse, because you're giving the input to your computer through these devices. Okay, and when I say output, the process of producing information or results, what you intend to see, those are output devices. So that can be in a readable format, or it can be a print, or it can be a report, like for your visual display. So it can be your monitor or your speaker or anything of these kinds, or your printer. Okay, now we have storage unit. So why is this storage used? Whatever you input, it has to be stored somewhere in the computer, right? So the saving of the data that happens inside the computer using the storage devices, it can be like random access memory, which is volatile, or it can be a ROM like your hard disk. And there is something called processing unit. So this is the unit which performs arithmetic and logical functions, and it converts the data that you give in a human format to a computer format. Okay, so that's where this is done. And the control unit, what it does is it directs and sequences the flow of all this, and all the operations that has to be performed in the computer. So basically we have 5 units: input, output, storage, processing, and control.
You're explaining things so well and really understanding it a lot.
I am so glad that you're able to understand.
How does a computer store so much information?
Okay, so see, it basically depends on what kind of information you want to store. We have so many devices today. Okay, now like we have huge spaces, like starting from your network area storage, or it's also called storage area network, to as small as random access memory. Like let's say example, if I asked you what you had for lunch today, it's easy, right? It will be stored in your temporary part in your brain memory. And in computer terms, we call it RAM, or random access memory. Okay, and things like ABCD or 1 to 100 or your mother tongue, it's all stored in this non-volatile memory. So it's stored for a very long time, and it's called ROM, or read-only memory, in a computer. Okay, so that will be mostly the hard disk. And these days what we're doing is, like, we have huge amount of data to store, so we use solid state drives. So it stores like operating systems, applications, data file stores, all these things. In olden days we used to use like punched paper tapes, punched cards, magnetic memory, magnetic drums, all of this. And today we use solid state drives, hard disk, internal, external hard disks. So we use these things. So now hard disk was actually back in 1956, was introduced by IBM. Okay, so computers were mainly used for computing, and that's why we got the name computer, of course. And they had to store huge amount of data and calculations. Okay, so these calculations would be used for a later time for further calculations. So this hard disk is a spindle of magnetic disks, and it's called platters, and they record and store information. And how? The data stored magnetically. So information recorded to this hard disk, it remains intact, and after you turn your computer off also, it is still there, okay, inside the hard drive. And so we use this to read and write data into your disk. So this is how we store so much of information. And we have voltages, we have, in the forms of zeros and ones, so in form of a bit.
What does it mean to store something in a cloud? Is it really the clouds in the sky?
Mhm.
And when it rains, does all the information go into the drain?
Okay, so this is a latest technology cloud. Latest in the sense, it's been a decade that this was introduced. So it might be silly, but it's a kind of an understandable example that I'm going to give you now. Okay, so let's say today was a festival, and your mom and dad, they made loads of favorite dishes of yours. Okay, now you cannot eat everything in a day, correct? And you might want to store it. But let's say you don't have a fridge that is big enough for you to store all your food. Okay. And if you don't refrigerate it, it will get spoiled, right? So what you do, you go to Amazon Cloud Refrigeration Services, let's say. Okay. So they will say, you can store your food in our fridge. We have huge fridge that can save all your food. And if you want it tomorrow, we will give you the sweets. Day after, we can give you the ice cream. And probably for the weekend, we can give you, whatever food you want in the fridge that you've stored your food. Okay. And they also say, we will not just deliver your food to your house, we will also give you hot cooked cheese fritters, your favorite, and if you use our service for more than a month, you get a discount, and all of these. So um, when they have so many services, you will not require a fridge to store. You will not have to heat heat the food for yourself and then eat it, right? So you have others managing your food, and then others giving you all these services. So what is cloud? It's where your computer and computing services are all available on the internet. Okay, and they're also storing and then accessing your data and programs over your internet instead of your own computer's hard drive. So that's exactly what cloud is.
In my previous episode, and also right now when you told me, I learned that computers understand a language of ones and zeros. So,
right.
How do Siri, Alexa, or Google understand what we say?
Oh, that's a very good question. Okay, so let's say you say, Siri, what's the weather now? Okay, so your voice will be recorded and it will be sent over the internet and it will go to the actual application. Okay, so now we have this new language called machine learning. Okay, so that's like the study of computer algorithms that improve automatically through experience. So, unlike olden days where we had to write the code in machine understandable format, the machine itself today understands human format. Okay, so it will read the way we work, the way we talk, and that's what is called as artificial intelligence. So, what it does is it will interact with the environment by producing actions, and it'll discover your responses. It'll also predict the future from the past data. Like if you asked, let's say, the weather every day, it understands that you would want to know the weather every day. So in the morning, it will give you an update as soon as you switch on your Siri or your Echo device. It will give you the weather updates anyway, because it understands that you have wanted it in the past, so it will give you that in the future as well. So this is how it works.
Does all of this happen in a sec? Because when I ask my Alexa or something
Mm-hmm.
to play a song, it
Mm-hmm.
is okay, here's what you are looking for.
Yes, actually, all this happens in nanoseconds. All the data is read, and it's all in the speed of a light, almost, I can say. So you get the output almost just in a second, right? If you see within 1 or 2 seconds, right? So all this operations happen really quick.
Interesting.
Very, very interesting,
Very
rather.
interesting. Your job is the most interesting job ever.
I'm so glad you said that.
What motivated you to be a computer engineer? As a child, what did you want to be?
Okay, so as a child, I wanted to be different things. I wanted to be a pilot at first and then an IAS officer. Eventually, I discovered I couldn't be a pilot because I was not tall enough and I had some back problems because I fell off from a parapet wall when I was young, when I was playing, and then I couldn't, get into becoming a pilot. And then later, IAS officer I wanted to become, but I was not really interested in political science. And I had to forcibly understand the current affairs, especially when it came to politics. So I dropped off those ideas. But however, parallelly, what also happened was during my, I think, in during my school days when I was in class 7 or 8, my dad got a computer home, and that was the first personal computer that I saw, and I was so fascinated by it. I always used to work on it and try to understand how it all worked. And so during my pre-university as well, I took computer science, and then I thought this has a good future because that was the biggest thing that ever happened as a boom. And then I thought it'll be good for me to work with and understand more and more about computers.
Interesting childhood.
Mhm.
I want my childhood to be like yours.
I'm sure you use a lot of devices now, and then you're more aware than I was back in my childhood days, Vedant. I'm so fascinated and I'm so thrilled when you talk about so many things already. And I'm a fan of yours, I must say, because I see the kind of questions you ask everybody, and just not with computers but with just any topic. You are so curious, and all of that you've been reading through internet, and yeah, I really appreciate you for that.
Thank you. What are your hobbies?
My hobbies are mainly singing and then photography, and I also write poems or songs or raps.
Even I like photography. What's your favorite food?
Actually, I love food. I love all kinds of Indian food, and if it is home cooked, even better. I just love food and eating.
I love all kind of foods. My favorite
Wow.
is Indian, Thai, and Chinese.
I also thought it was a little of Italian because you love the pasta and pizzas.
Italian too, pasta and pizza. Thank you so much for coming on my show.
Thank you so much for having me on your show, Vedant. I'm so thrilled to be on your show and I'm really proud of you.
Thank you. Dear listeners, follow my Facebook page, Curious Vedanth, to get updates on the upcoming episodes. You listen at leisure on your phone and get notified about future episodes. So subscribe by searching for Curious Vedanth wherever you get your podcasts, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can also listen to my show on vedanth.buzzsprout.com. Thank you for listening to Curious Vedanth, and don't forget to rate and leave comments.